A UN delegation has visited South Africa to assess how the country is doing in aligning sustainable development goals and the new urban agenda. This is in relation to South Africa's human settlements challenges. That delegation was led by the Minister, Mmamoloko Kubayi, and it visited various informal settlements in the Western Cape, KwaZulu Natal and Gauteng. In fact, the Minister joins us now for more on just exactly what was discussed there. Minister, thanks very much indeed for joining us this morning. I can't imagine that this was positive, the kinds of reviews that would have come out of this visit from the UN when visiting our informal settlements.
Good morning to you, Michelle. Good morning to your viewers. Yes, indeed, we are grateful of the UN Director, ED, Maimuna Mod Sharif, who is in the country on a mission, but also from yesterday and today, we have various governments joining us as part of the global action plan of eradication for informal settlements and slums across globally. We volunteered as South Africa to be the host of this event, but also we invited the ED to come into the country as part of sharing of experiences. As you said, we took her to KwaZulu Natal, the areas that were affected by the floods, shared our process in terms of how we're dealing with that, movement of people or relocation of people. Similarly, in Western Cape and as well, yesterday we went to the rugby club, informal settlements, which people are given service sites with services, and also to Flareoff, one of the biggest projects that is doing very well, as showcasing what we are doing, the movement in terms of moving people from informal settlements to formal dwellings, but also because the UN Habitat mission is around transformation of where people are settling, but also the issue around resilience and sustainability. So the feedback has been positive, and we will continue to learn from experts, which will continue from tomorrow as well. When we, political leadership and other high-level delegations, conclude today, the experts panels will continue tomorrow in terms of the expertise, the academia, and those who are practitioners, sharing as well, utilizing us as a benchmark to give us feedback as a country.
So, Minister, when you say the feedback has been positive, what was positive? What were the positive things that were said when these informal settlements were visited?
Look, compared to many countries, the feedback positive is that we have a policy that is very clear on ensuring that we only not providing homes or houses, because quite a number of countries globally are still only focused on just providing shelter, and they do not pay attention to bringing people where they live to be able to bring social amenities, public spaces, and all those issues. But secondly, it was positive because we are one of the few countries that provides for free shelter, which is free housing for the needy, which includes land and services. Many countries do not provide free basic services, do not provide free housing. They actually provide for rental, especially for those who are living below poverty line. Whereas we are providing rental to those that we call missing middle in South Africa, who do not qualify for BNGs or RDPs, and also earn lesser for commercial banks to provide them with bonds. So that's the positive feedback that we got.
So basically what you're saying, Minister, is that on a policy level, we are saying the right things. And that can be said for a number of challenges in our country, right? On paper, we are certainly doing
but also even on implementation in this regard.
And tell me more about that, Minister. How are we succeeding insofar as informal settlements are concerned on implementation?
No, that's what I'm saying. Compared to many countries, remember this is a UN mission. So they take us as South Africa, they compare us with other global communities, so other countries. When they look at how we are implementing the informal settlement upgrading, what we are providing in terms of the services, as I'm saying, we're one of the few that provides free basic houses for the indigent. We are currently doing that. So it's one that is positive. So, Minister, we are one of the few that provides land for the indigent and also land that is serviced. And I understand where you are coming from, because you are also saying, because in South Africa we have a backlog, would that be positive? In terms of implementation compared to the global community, that is seen in a positive light.
Minister, how would you say we are doing as a country insofar as our mushrooming informal settlements across the country? I mean, how do we score ourselves on that point?
Okay, in terms of the country, we currently have 1.4 million households living in informal settlements. These are 2,600 informal settlements across South Africa. And I continue to say counting, because we at National rely on municipalities locally to stop the illegal occupation of land where you have informal settlement setting. And that's why I've been advocating, even with political parties, to say we need to ensure that we do not continue this, because they deny us an opportunity to plan and all those things. But again, in terms of how we are doing, we have various, as we said, 2,600 that we are tracking. In terms of one, you've got to be able to say, when you have these informal settlements, when they start happening after some time, you need to provide free basic services that are temporary. We are doing that in a number of communities across. There are very few in Western Cape, for example. That's why I've been dealing with those 16 informal settlements. We are providing, for example, temporary toilets and temporary water taking, even though they are not. In many countries, they don't do that. If people have illegally occupied land, or they've put themselves there without authorities agreeing, they do not provide them with temporary services. So we do as a country. Number two, then we go and say we need to upgrade we need to formalize that settlement. Now, meaning in terms of the geotech, bringing in evaluation to check the quantity surveyors, to check if where they are staying, it's an area where you can actually deem it as a place suitable for human settlements or for people to live. Once that is done, then you move into the areas of formalization and providing of permanent services. So that's how we are doing the upgrading of informal settlements in the country. And that's why we made a reference to Rugby Club as an informal settlement, to say, here we've not built houses. But what we have done, we've created sites, which is stands that are properly done, designated. They moved from a very clustered area and moved to an area where it's site. It's not yet houses. But what we have done, we've provided electricity, we've provided water. Within the yards, individual household has a tap inside. And then on the street, because we still have to do the piping, we provided for temporary toilets. So it's part of what we call informal settlements upgrading, which has its own basis, and having to follow the legal framework in terms of complying with municipalities, even if we as human settlements have to provide with those services.
Minister, I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt you there because we are pressed for time. But yeah, I mean, it's a difficult thing to sort of understand just how exactly the story can be a positive one year, because people living in informal settlements will tell us such an incredibly different story, right? Minister, before we let you go, I have to just ask you this, because we're on the road to December and the elective conference. I want to get your thoughts on the African National Congress and their seeming inability to elect women leaders to the top echelons of the party as we build up to December, and with yourself also with your name and your name in the ring for the position of Deputy President. Just give us your thoughts on that.
Look, we continue to look forward to December conference. I do believe that it's going to be a watershed conference. We will definitely see women leaders emerging in the top 6, that I'm confident, looking at what branches have been vocal about and what branches are expressing on the ground. That is one of the confident things that we can say as we go towards December. And also we are looking forward to not only just women. We always talk about a generational mix, and this time we said it has to be a gendered generational mix.
Right.
It's a generational mix that has a younger and older generation, but has to have women. So I'm confident that this December conference will elect women in the top 6.
Mmamoloko
Not only
Kubayi.
just one woman, more.
Yeah. Human Settlement Minister joining us this morning. Thanks very much indeed for your time.